water rising with no way out. That's how I felt during Super Typhoon Sinlaku. I worked in Saipan for about a year and a half, and during that time, from April 13th to 16th, was Super Typhoon Sinlaku. Originally, I had expected to have 1 or 2 days off of school and it to be a heavy rainfall and it be about over. But little did I know the devastation that was about to come. Monday, the weather was getting worse, although the typhoon didn't officially start. However, Tuesday, the typhoon had started. I had a board I borrowed from my friend to keep water out of my room, because the apartment I lived in, it was connected to different buildings and it had a roof on top attached to different buildings on the opposite side. However, I was at the end of the hallway, so my door was facing the wind and the rain. So I had a board to help keep the water out. However, the worst of the typhoon happened between the hours of 12 to 3 a.m. Tuesday morning. It was a nightmare. The wind was blowing against the building so hard, I was thinking the roof was going to fly off. I went down underneath my bunk bed, crouched against the wall, and begged God to protect my life and to protect everybody's life during this typhoon. Well, eventually I got out because I was thinking maybe I'd feel safer in the bathroom. But when I got out, I saw that the floodwaters had come in my room. They were flowing and about up to my ankle. Naturally assumed they were going to get worse. So I tried calling for help, but my phone wasn't quite working or the people couldn't hear me. So I ended up just shouting, and somebody who was staying in the apartment next to mine just for a time came and helped me. I actually tried to hop on this person's back to go over, and the reason I did that was because my windows, I had windows at the top of my apartment on the inside. They had broken and the glass fell out in the hallway outside. And because I was trying to leave quick, I didn't have shoes on. So I decided to hop on this person's back, but maybe I was too heavy because it didn't work out. So I ended up walking barefoot across the glass. Thankfully, I did not scrape up my feet. And I ended up staying in this room for some time. The person who helped me was a guy, so after a few hours, he did move rooms. But he was very sweet. He offered food. He asked if I needed anything, that type of thing. So that was very thoughtful of him. So I was in this room for a few hours. However, the room I moved to temporarily didn't work very well because it wasn't very comfortable. I felt safe for a little bit, but it was leaking and the windows were also broken. And there was just some concerns I had about that room. So I went and knocked on the door to the lady in the hallway in the middle, and her room was dry and comfortable, and she was very gracious and let me stay with her during the storm. So I was able to get in a comfortable room. Well, the winds for the storm was so bad. The highest of the winds was 150 miles per hour, with around the average, I believe, being 140 miles per hour. And the devastation after the storm was terrible. The foliage, the trees looked so bad, the foliage was gone. The trees and the land, it looked like it had been burned. Saipan was so beautiful, but it was no longer beautiful after Sinlaku. Well, thankfully, most of the people on Saipan were okay. Unfortunately, however, there was about 6 people who were on the cargo vessel, the Mariner. No, the cargo vessel Mariana, and the vessel went down. So unfortunately, some life was lost. Although I am thankful I'm okay, and I'm thankful the families at the school and the students were okay as well. Well, the next week, the school was up and running. There were people at the school who worked very hard to get the school up and running, to get the cleanup underway, to get help get the water out of the classrooms and the main debris out of the way. And the school had 3 generators they were using, and there were men who had to constantly monitor them and make sure they were filled with water. So some people worked very hard to help keep that running. Now, the generators couldn't run all the time. They had them running during church services, and they had them running on school days around 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. or so, and during lunchtime the power was temporarily cut off. And then they ran again at night from about 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. So it was nice to have it for a little bit, but when you woke up you were very sweaty and it felt like waking up in an oven. Eventually, after a few weeks, the city power was making a comeback, so I was very happy about that because I was tired of being hot all the time. And of course, eventually, after a few weeks, also running water came back. We had to use rainwater that was being stored on top of buildings, and people were helping with extra water if some people didn't have any, that type of thing. But eventually the water came back on too, which was nice to take a real shower again, not just water dumping on yourself. And of course it affected the businesses dramatically. It was a lot of businesses, they either had to close or just only be opened part-time or have just like takeout options because there wasn't any power, so it wasn't the same as before. Gas lines to get gasoline for the car was crazy, so long. Would take people forever if they needed that. And yeah, just devastating storm. After a few weeks, the vegetation did start to grow back, so I'm thankful that it had started to look better. And I'm thankful that as far as the people, that a lot of people were okay. Unfortunately, Sinlaku, over the course of the storm, Guam, the CNMI, it did take about 17 lives, unfortunately. And I am okay if I never hear or go through a super typhoon again. It's very devastating what it can do, and it's very dangerous. I know this was more of a serious video, but I hope this was interesting for you. I hope you learned something. And if you enjoy travel stories, hearing about experiences, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!